When you get your first harp, it can be a little bit daunting learning how to take care of it. You've just spent a lot of money on this beautiful instrument, and now you want to make sure that you care for it in the most caring way, I suppose, and just making sure that nothing you're doing on a day-to-day basis is damaging the wood or the strings. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about where's the best place to put your harp, how to keep it clean, how to put it in the car, when to have it serviced, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the strings as well, when they're likely to break. So just excuse me looking at my notes from time to time down here. So what I'm going to say today is relevant for both pedal and lever harps. So whatever harp you have, I hope you're going to find some useful information here. Where to put your harp in your house. The most important thing to consider is that you've got a consistent environment in terms of temperature and humidity. That's what we're really thinking about when we're thinking about caring for the wood of our harp. Do your absolute best to not place your harp anywhere near a radiator. If you really have to put it near a radiator, there's literally nowhere else in your house. Just turn that radiator off, literally to zero, and just make sure it's never ever going to come on, because radiators really dry out the air around them, and that in turn can cause the wood of your harp to lose a bit of moisture. In the same vein as not being anywhere near a radiator, you also don't want the harp to be in direct sun. So just look out for where the sun comes into your room and make sure the harp's not in direct sunlight for too long. Ideally, you don't want it to be in direct sunlight at all. So just do your best with that one. Something I've started doing in this room where I keep my harp is monitoring the humidity, because I've got my piano in here as well. So I just really want to make sure that my instruments are at very optimal humidity. So I picked up this very cheap humidity monitor from Amazon, and it tells you the current humidity and temperature, and then it has the lowest reading and the highest reading from the time period since you last reset the monitor. So when I got this, I realized it was getting quite dry in here. So I ended up actually getting a humidifier. I'll try and take some footage to show you the humidifier, but it's really handy because I don't live here where my instruments are, but my humidifier connects to my phone, so I can always see what the humidity level is in here, and I can switch the humidifier on if it gets below a certain humidity level. Now, the goal humidity level for instruments is between 40 and 50%. The general level of most rooms in this country is going to be a bit higher in summer when it's warmer and we don't have the heating on. But in winter, when the heatings come on, it dries the air out quite a bit. So I was finding that the humidity was actually going quite low when the heating came on first thing in the morning. So it was a bit of an investment to get a humidifier for this room, but it gives me the peace of mind to know that it's a much more consistent environment in here now for my instruments. So that's been a really, really good, sensible purchase. So no regrets on that one. If you are transporting your harp in the car, try and leave it in the car for the shortest possible time period, especially if it's really hot. We really want to avoid just leaving the harp in a hot car. If you're in the car as well, driving somewhere on a hot day, I'm hoping you've got air conditioning, or you can at least have a window open. I think you really notice it when the engine's off, the aircon's not on, and the car really gets a lot hotter quite quickly. So we really want to avoid that as well. Okay, let's move on to how to keep the harp clean. Best practice is really to keep your cover on the harp. I know they're beautiful to look at, but we want to protect them as much as possible from things like dust or anything else that might be floating around. So keep the cover on if you can. I recommend getting one of these. I also got this from Amazon. It's just a shaving brush. I'll leave links to these products in the description. But if you've got a lever harp, you can just sort of brush the levers with this to get the dust out. Same with a pedal harp. You can just sort of get in the mechanism with this and gently get the dust out like that. I like to do that every so often. You can also take a clean, dry cloth and just wipe any dust off the rest of the instrument. And that's kind of all you need to do to keep it clean on a regular basis, if you're keeping the cover on, of course. So briefly, how to put it in the car. Now, I could spend a whole video talking about this, and let me know if that would be useful. But if we're talking about lever harps, we want the levers facing up in the car. And if we're talking about a pedal harp, we want the mechanism facing upwards. You ideally want it lying flat in the car, so you might have to put your back seats down. And if there's any sort of lip between the boot floor and the back of your back seats that have been folded down, just pad that with a duvet or something, or some cushions, just so the harp has a stable base to lie on. But again, I can go into more detail on that in another video if you need. Don't let it slide around in the car. Just make sure it's sort of wedged in as nicely as it can be. When to have it serviced? So this really depends on how much you're playing. For a lever harp, I'd probably say it's not going to need servicing unless something's gone wrong, unless you've got a lever that needs adjusting, you've got a buzz that you don't know where it's come from. Pedal harps, for me as a professional, so I'm playing quite a lot, I get my harp serviced every couple of years, and I probably get new bass wires every 4 years. But if I was playing more, I'd probably get them switched out every 2 years. So what happens at a service is the regulation is checked. So if a harp, I tune my harp in flats, and if you want more information about how to tune your harp, you can have a look at this video up here where I talk about how to tune a harp step by step. The technician will make sure that if the string is in tune in the flat position, it's also in tune in the natural position and in the sharp position. Sometimes the mechanism just goes a little bit, and if it's in tune, let's say an A string, if the A flat is in tune, when you change the pedal to A natural, it might not be as in tune anymore. And again, for turning from natural to sharp, they may also replace those bass wires, and they'll also replace the pedal felts, which is the red bit of felt around each pedal that sort of protects it from clunking too much in the grooves of the harp. Let's talk a little bit about strings. So the strings of your harp will probably be wires at the base, nickel-bound metal bass wires. These rarely break. If they do, you'll just have to buy, the replacement for that one. Personally, I don't keep a spare set of bass wires. I just have them changed every few years. And that's been absolutely fine for me for years and years. The very top strings of your harp could well be nylon. Now, nylon strings, because they're synthetic, they don't really snap, but the sound does start to die a little bit after a long time. So just keep making sure that you're still happy with the sound. And if it's starting to sound a bit dead or just not as good as it used to, it might be worth changing those nylon strings. But you could wait until they go. They do go occasionally. See how you feel on that one. The middle strings of your harp may well be gut strings, which these days I believe is a synthetic gut, as opposed to what they used to be made of. Gut strings do snap a little bit more. They have a lovely rich sound though. You can sometimes tell when a gut string is going to snap because it gets a bit frayed either at the bottom near the soundboard or where the knot is at the top, or like where the pins or the levers are, because that's where the most wear on the strings is happening. Definitely try and tune your harp at least, I would say, once a week. That's important for maintaining the correct tension on the strings, and it's just good for the harp structurally to have the tension on the strings that it was designed for. If you want me to make a video about how to change a string, I can do that. There's a knot that is useful to be confident with. Yeah, again, let me know. So if you're wanting to play the harp a little bit more, I've got an online community called Play Every Day. So it's just a bit of gentle accountability where we try and literally play our instrument a little bit every day and then come to the group and share what you're working on and how it's going. So if that sounds interesting, something you might want to join, I'll leave the link down in the description below as well. If you've not yet bought your first harp and you want to know more about the differences between pedal and lever harp, you should have a look at this video here where I explain it all, and there's more information there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.